In this video, I examined the death registration form of the man believed to be Whoppy in the Jamaican saying, Whoppy Killed Phillup. I will examine his death registration form to understand who he was, where he lost his life, and how. This is an interesting video you should watch till the end. I am Nigel D. Salmon. Welcome to Jamaican Chapter. It was 1951 in colonial Jamaica. 43 years old Hugh Foot was the then governor of the island. It was life as usual. Agriculture was booming and the island was already a tourist destination. In a period when there was no internet, cable TV nor mobile phones, young people, grand and great-great-grandparents of today's generation were falling in love and attracting love through face-to-face communication. Among those young people was 19 years old Sidney Garrell, a slim and handsome young man from St. Andrew. Not too long out of school, he was now pursuing the things of adult life, to be in love, start a family, and possibly get married. He had fallen in love with an 18 years old young woman named Bernadette Hugh, a girl he knew before the both of them became adults. Monday, June 11, after 7 p.m. 1951. Sidney Garrell met up with Bernadette Hugh on Palisadoes Road for a romantic night of strolling, holding hands, talking and enjoying the cool air, along with view of the green mountain, blue sky and bouncing sea. The couple had chosen to be at a spot where they were alone and could enjoy each other's company. It was a quiet night, and for the young couple, it all felt safe. Creeping upon the couple was a dirty-locked Rastaman with despisable intention. The sound of his approaching feet drew the attention of the young couple, who looked at him with fright. Indeed, he was a frightening Rastaman with uncombed hair, stained teeth, and bad breath. His name was Ashton Jolly, a 45 years old laborer from the Kingston area who was also called Whoppy King. "Give me one money," he must have demanded. Young Sidney Garrell must have jumped between Bernadette and Whoppy King. He handed over all his money just to see him go away. But Whoppy King was not yet done. His eyes were set on Bernadette. But he knew he would have to get rid of the wall that 19 years old Sidney Garrell had become. So he attacked Sidney Garrell. The young Sidney Garrell fought back, not only for himself, but for Bernadette. But he was no match for the street-hardened Whoppy King, who bludgeoned him with an object. Sidney Garrell fell and was stabbed repeatedly. Unconscious and bleeding massively, he died quickly. Bernadette witnessed the brutal murder of her first love. She screamed and ran. but was caught and battered into submission to the ordeal of rape, then left to die. But she survived. Whoppy King, in an attempt to escape the law, trimmed his locks. But good police investigation led to his arrest. He was identified by Bernadette as the man and was then charged. On Monday, November 12, 1951, Whoppy King stood nervously in court as the judge read out his sentence. He was sentenced to death. So who exactly was Whoppy King? Whoppy King was born Ashton Jolly in 1907. He grew up around Dunghill in Kingston. By the time he was a teenager, he got involved in criminal activities, carrying out acts of bullying, stealing, selling ganja, and robbing. As he grew older, Whoppy King, as he was called on the streets, became street hardened and dangerous. One day in 1941, a police officer, Constable Mendez, tried to rough up Whoppy King about his troublesome behavior. It did not go down well for him. Whoppy King attacked Constable Mendez with a knife and also attacked a civilian male who came to the constable's assistance. Whoppy King was sentenced to 7 years in prison for this crime. After his release from prison, Whoppy King became worse as a criminal. He went on a life of wounding, robbing, and murdering, leaving a list of victims behind him, including Sidney Gorrell and Bernadette Hugh. This is the death registration form of Whoppy King. I will be looking through this form to examine the details of his death and his basic information. I will start by looking at the top of the form. At the top of the form it says, death in the district of Spanish Town, parish of St. Catherine. Now let's examine the form from the left to the right. In the first section on the left side of the form it says, date and place of death, and they wrote 4th April 1952. In other words, April 4, 1952. And in terms of place, St. Catherine District Prison, Spanish Town. So, Whoppy King's date of death is April 4, 1952, and the place of death is St. Catherine District Prison, Spanish Town. In the other section it says name and surname, and they wrote Aston Jolly. Beside that, it says sex, and they put male. So yes, he was male. Beside that, we see condition, and they wrote single. Condition on a death registration form, it means the same as marital status. So they're saying his marital status is single. We continue on. In the next section, it says age, last birthday, and they wrote 45 years. So he was 45 years old. Beside that, we see rank, profession, or occupation, and they wrote laborer. So his given occupation was laborer. While he worked as a laborer, I think for the most part his occupation was those criminal acts of robbing people, But his occupation here is listed as laborer. We continue on now to the cause of death. Now, in this section it says cause of death and duration of illness. And they wrote dislocation of the cervical vertebrae caused by hanging under sentence of court and warrant of His Excellency the Governor. I wanted to see the text clearly, so I'm going to put it up on the screen. So this is the cause of death. Remember now that Whoppy King was sentenced to death. Death by hanging. And after the execution was carried out on April 4 of 1952, this is what is written on his death registration form as the certified cause of death. It says, as you see it on the screen, cause of death, dislocation of the cervical vertebrae caused by hanging under sentence of court and warrant of His Excellency the Governor. The governor at the time, which was Hewfoot, could have converted his sentence to life imprisonment. But of course, a petition would have to be made to the governor. In Whoppy King case, it was very unlikely that his death sentence would have been converted to life imprisonment or that he would have been pardoned. Whoppy King had a reputation of committing serious crimes. when he was executed, it was not just for killing Sidney Gorrell. He was linked to other murders. So it was difficult to see how he could have been pardoned, or that his death sentence could have been converted to life imprisonment. When it was announced that he would be executed on April 4, it was a Friday, April 4, 1952, there was a huge crowd outside of the St. Catherine District Prison. And those individuals were waiting to hear that Whoppy King was put to death. So that's how Whoppy King came to an end. He was hanged on April 4, 1952. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more interesting videos like this.